yourself. All right, you ready to go? Here we go. I'm recording.
The Daily Tech News Show is entirely supported and funded by voluntary contributions from listeners like you. If you want to chip in and support your daily source of tech, visit patreon.com/acedetect.
This is the Daily Tech News for Wednesday, August 13th, 2014. I'm Tom Merritt, and joining me today, the Podfather, co-host of No Agenda Show, Mr. Adam Curry. I am honored to have you along, sir.
I'm hearing this track. It needs cowbell, Tom. It needs cowbell. That's
Thank you for the cowbell.
Baby.
That's awesome. Hey, man, especially thank you for persisting through some weird technical difficulties, and I mean of a mystical nature. They were
uncanny listening. I like that. Yeah, when you have some kind of RF interference, and I've never had this before. But anyway, we worked it all out. We're wired, and I'm really happy to be here.
And of course, today being the 10-year anniversary of the Daily Source Code's first episode, and the kickoff of podcasting. We're going to talk about that in a little while.
I appreciate you reminding me, because I really, unless you had invited me on the show, I would not have thought of it as the 10th anniversary.
You weren't buying balloons? You weren't throwing a party?
No, and there was an Ars Technica article which I recall being interviewed for. Wow, must be 6 or 7 weeks ago, and I'd completely forgotten about that. And then that showed up today. I'm like, oh yeah, where's my presents? Yeah.
Well, cool. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but let's take a gander at the headlines first. James Bamford, author of The Puzzle Palace and Shadow Factory, among other things, he's a whistleblower, published an account on Wired of 3 days he spent interviewing Edward Snowden in Moscow. Among the many revelations, Snowden cites two main discoveries that caused him to do what he did. One was that data center built in Bluffdale, Utah. He's mentioned that before. That's the one where they're storing the intercepted data. The other, he describes a tool called Monster Mind that would monitor all digital communications and auto-fire back without human supervision if it detected an attack. Snowden also claims he was told the U.S. caused one of the internet outages in Syria in 2012 when covert software installation on an ISP's router went wrong. He also expresses disapproval of cyber attacks on China, which he says target civilian institutions like universities and hospitals. Did you get a chance to look at this, Adam?
Excuse me. Yeah, I did. Two things popped out right away. One, having James Bamford do the interview is an interesting choice. You know, you know what side he's going to be on from the get-go, so it's not really the most objective person to send out.
Certainly not adversarial in any way. Right?
Not at all. You know, and I think the biggest criticism you'll read is that softballs were being lobbed. But the thing that gets me now, here we have Edward Snowden, who's been in Russia now for over a year, and of course he has his. From what we understand, he has an extension for 3 more years, and he still has not fixed his glasses. If you look at the picture, there's a nose guard, and that thing has been missing since the very first interview in Hong Kong, and we've actually discussed this on the No Agenda show because it's bothersome to me. Now, I don't have it here, but you have 2 nose guards, and if one of those is off, you know that you can deal with that for a day, a week, but you can't live a year with that nose guard missing.
Yeah, and they mention it in the
in the article specifically mentions hip Burberry glasses, but it's missing a nose guard. So,
see, I thought they were like I have the same kind, except they're not Burberry. They're Joseph Abode or something.
You know, knowing that Snowden has been seen out in public in Moscow without his glasses, this leads me to a bothersome conclusion that this is brand Snowden, and that it is really constructed. Even if you read the article, how his trademark glasses, and now he has the kind of stylized, holding Old Glory, looking a little sad, kind of off into the.
That's the cover picture from Wired magazine.
With clearly glasses he does not wear every single day, so. This doesn't make me feel good about anything that he's really saying at this point. Beyond, to me, he's not a policy guy. He's if he got these documents and he gave them selectively to news organizations to parse through and report on, I think that's a pretty reasonable way of doing things. It seems a pretty safe way, and of course, we know that news organizations will check this with the White House and the Pentagon, and so, we're not really. I don't think anything life-threatening has come out of this. But now he's kind of moving into this brand Snowden is exactly what it is. I'm not so sure I'm comfortable with that.
And the article has him pushing against that, while the effect, whether it's intentional or not, is doing that. Absolutely, yeah. From the, I don't want to say it's sublime, but it's certainly more weighty than a phone. Samsung announced the Galaxy Alpha, a 4.7-inch Android phone with a metal ring around it that caused many reporters to write the word iPhone because metal ring. The screen is 720p, runs on Samsung's octa-core Exynos with 2 gigabytes of RAM and 32 gigabytes of storage. The Alpha will come in 5 colors and be available at the beginning of September. No word on price.
Woo! Woo! New phone,
I knew you'd be excited.
News. Yeah, thank goodness. Might be a tech show.
The Next Web reports WeChat now has 438 million active users, up from 396 million last quarter, and hot on the tail of Facebook's WhatsApp, which has 500 million users or thereabouts. The gains come in spite of the fact that 20 million Chinese WeChat accounts were closed last quarter due to a new law that requires public account owners in China to register real identities and receive permission before they disseminate news on them.
I was in Tokyo, and I don't have a phone. I have an iPod Touch. I refuse to carry a phone. I've opted out of telephones, and not really for NSA spying, but I feel I'm much more social when I'm not connected and I actually can't do anything, particularly in the car. My wife and I sing songs now when we're driving.
No navigation apps for you, though.
A friend of ours gave us their 12-year-old daughter to take us through the metro of Tokyo, and these kids, they know exactly how to go, where to go. And she was using this thing called Line. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, it's very popular in Japan, but is it in a Korean company maybe?
I don't know, but if it's anything like WeChat or any of these other things, it's really annoying because it's at first it spammed, of course, all of my contacts without asking, like, hey, and then it keeps telling me that I want stickers and
you do. They make a ton of money off those stickers. It's ridiculous.
Must be. So I still have it because I have her and her parents as hopefully the only friends. But I'm sure it's just one big bundle of spyware crap that's in there.
Well, it's instant messaging all over again. 500 platforms, none of which talk to each other, and they all going to try to push to do more to you as time goes on.
And of course I can't have WhatsApp because I don't have a phone. It doesn't work on a Wi-Fi device. You have to have a phone with a number.
Mm-hmm.
So I really don't care about I have no one to chat with, quite honestly.
All right. Well, do you care about the internet breaking? We don't want the internet to break.
Yeah, no, I do.
You may have heard the internet broke recently.
The zone file size. The
512K limit. The problem is that global routing tables, which must be stored on every border router, have grown to the maximum number of routes supported on some older hardware platforms. That number is actually 524,288, or 2 to the 19th power. I read an article by Jim Cowie at Renesys that the situation is more of an annoyance than a threat. All of the routers that operate core infrastructure have plenty of room. They're newer, they're unaffected. And affected routers may cause local connectivity problems, but those can be quickly identified and the hardware upgraded. Thanks to Commander Marks for submitting this on the subreddit too.
I think it is good that these stories come out from time to time, even though, of course, this is not really going to affect anything. And eventually we will have to have a lot of people and legacy switch to IPv6. Those terror scare stories come out from time to time. But it is good to know that in this case, the internet can't be free. Everyone wants it to be free, like water, and it's just magic and it happens. But when you upgrade and as everything grows, that's real money. A Cisco box, $150,000 to $200,000, and you've got upgrades and people maintaining it, and particularly in this BGP world. I mean, that is a magical place, and guys and gals who speak that. Border Gateway Protocol. I mean, be happy that they know what they're doing and they're making it work, because they truly, sysadmins and network admins really are the people making it work.
Sysadmins
and all we do is bitch and moan when something falls apart or it's breaking our data cap. It's sad.
Time for some news from you. These are submitted at our subreddit, dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. Thanks to everybody who makes that work and everybody who submits things. Go join them. There's about 3,000 people in there having a good time, submitting stories, voting them up and down. SP Sheridan submitted the story of the murder suspect who allegedly asked Siri where to bury a body. It's another one getting headlines all over the place. Ars Technica reports Gainesville, Florida detective Matt Geckel presented evidence in court Tuesday with a screenshot showing the suspect telling Siri, "I need to hide my roommate. How do I hide a body?" The Gainesville PD has since clarified that the queries in the screenshot were not necessarily connected to the alleged murder.
You know, I'm telling you, man, Tim Cook will stop at nothing to promote iPhone 6. That guy is ruthless.
Is that what you think is going on?
What else could it be, Tom? What else?
What else? It doesn't make sense any other way. They have changed that, by the way, since it originally used to give you a joke answer. Now it just says, "I don't know what you're talking about. I can't help you with that."
Didn't I read that the original Siri guys just left Apple and they're going to start a new Siri or something of the like?
They left Apple actually pretty shortly after Siri launched, and for the past 2 years they've been
period or something.
They've been doing their own voice recognition assistant called Viv. That's supposed to not have to be programmed to make the answers. It's able to learn as it goes.
You know, I'm still waiting to be able to have my computer listen to me and type it out. And that was the promise 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I think 20 years ago. You know, we all had the stupid plastic headset, and we got the software. Like, oh yes, we're going to teach it, and it's going to.
It came with my Creative Labs Sound Blaster for Windows 95.
Oh yeah, it was bundled
actually,
in.
It might have been Windows 3.1 actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So that still doesn't work. It just doesn't work. I have yet to see it, and actually, that makes me happy that the world of Kurzweil is not coming true yet the way he hopes it will. I like the idea that human brain functions are still far superior to anything I've seen in this realm of voice recognition and cognitive responses. And
no, IBM's working on a way to model the brain in chip form and reproduce neural firing. So
yeah, and they've branded that Watson,
soon.
and I know Ken Jennings, who lost to Watson on Jeopardy, and there's a whole bunch of shenanigans going on with how Watson actually wins these things, and it's their healthcare brand, and Watson will prescribe the right medication for you. Don't fall for this. This is, find a doctor, get a secretary to take dictation. Don't fall for these things. It's a long way off.
We got a couple from Captain Kipper here. He submitted an Engadget report that Amazon is stepping into the ring 'em up fight with Square. Ring 'em up, folks. Unveiling Local Register, a credit card reader and app for small businesses. The online retailer is offering a flat charge of 1.75% per payment until January 2016. Now, that compares to the 2.75% by Square and the 2.7% charged by PayPal, although Amazon's fee will rise to 2.5% on January 2nd, 2016, so they'll still come in a little bit cheaper.
I think this would have been bigger news when they did the 60 Minutes piece on Bezos than that bogus, oh, look at this drone's going to deliver your package. Like, please, we know that's not really going to happen. But I was just talking to a friend of ours who she has a hair salon. She's a one woman show. She uses Square, and I said, hey, Amazon's coming out with 1.7% for a certain amount of time, and then 2.5, which is still 0.2% less than what you're paying with Square. And she said immediately, oh, if Amazon will give me a better deal, I'll take it. And I think a lot of people think that way. And I also
absolutely.
The
place where we dropped off our dogs for vacation in Petaluma when we still lived in Northern California wouldn't switch to Square because they got everybody to pay with debit cards, and they're like, we don't pay any fees on that.
Well, this is true. Yeah, if you can get that going, absolutely. I mean, the less people you have in between, the money or whatever digits or information is being seen as money these days, and the better, of course. You want as few steps in there, and I don't think there's any loyalty. I think if Amazon can undercut Square, absolutely.
Yeah. The card reader costs $10. It's available for Android, iOS, and Fire devices, and a bundle includes a Kindle Fire HDX 8.9 for $380. Turns out Amazon versus Square was just the undercard. Captain Kipper, our designated grudge match correspondent, also submitted a TechCrunch report that Uber is now fighting back against Lyft, claiming Lyft drivers and employees made and canceled close to 13,000 rides compared to the 5,000 cancellations Lyft alleges were generated by Uber. TechCrunch reached out to Uber to see how the company is actually coming to that 13,000 number, but until they hear back, perhaps the two mobile car hailing companies can settle this the old-fashioned way with a drag race.
Yeah,
Get cha-cha out there.
Pink slips. Pink slips. We're playing for pinks. Yeah, I'm very excited about what is deemed the sharing economy, but we really have to do away with these companies in the middle. I mean, really, for an app and some scheduling and for some payment processing, do we really need to have $1 billion company sitting in the middle for Airbnb, for Uber, for Lyft, for any other type of real sharing resources? I think we will eventually move towards the day when, sure, there's an administrator of systems that is making things run, and there'll be more of a cooperative, and everyone who participates in the system will pay into that, but not to make these huge, big companies who clearly are a-holes, because they're, this is corporate warfare between the two, and it's really it's unnecessary. If you want to have your rides managed like your Gmail, then this is what you get.
Yeah, I mean, I would love a sort of a peer-to-peer with a light administration.
Why not?
Because what you want is an ombudsman, right? Some kind of third party that can help you gain trust. Like when I connect, I'm not going to connect with a shyster.
Right. Well, have you seen these guys at Uber and Lyft?
Oh yeah, I take Uber all the time to the airport.
Yeah, but have you seen the guys running it?
Oh no, I haven't seen the guys running it.
Look at their board, man. Ugh.
Yeah.
You're exactly right, Tom. We want an ombudsman in the middle who's nice and is not taking all the money.
Yeah. So somebody's just taking enough money to pay for what they're doing to help us out, right?
Yeah.
Worth what they're doing.
Monetizing the network is really old. You've discovered this. Monetizing networks of anything, it's not going to work long term. I've discovered it too.
Mm-hmm.
When podcasting started, I thought, okay, we're gonna have a network, and we'll monetize that way. But what is the value add of a network? Promotion. We'll bring you audience. Bull crap. You don't need that anymore. You can find this yourself. All the resources are available, and the network, I feel, just really was not meant to be monetized in that manner.
And that is a look at the headlines. Speaking of ombudsman, Todd Whitehead is kind of that guy at Alpha Geek Radio. He allows us to stream our audio on Alpha Geek Radio. He does it for a ton of different podcasts. Mobile.alphageekradio.com is the place to go to check it out. If you want to listen to the show when we do it live at usually around 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific, barring technical difficulties.
A professional audio engineer.
Right? The irony. But yeah, most of the time it's there, and we're damn close today. Mobile.alphageekradio.com is the place to go. And you just mentioned when you first started podcasting, Daily Source Code, as we mentioned, 10 years ago. Cyrus Farivar is the guy who wrote that Ars Technica article you were talking about. Really good rundown of sort of what led to podcasting happening, both Dave Weiner's development of enclosures and Steve Gilmore and Doug Kay and Christopher Lydon's early work, and then your RSS to iPod AppleScript, which I didn't realize came out October 2003. It was that far ahead of Daily Source Code.
Yeah, and it wasn't all. I mean, it wasn't like some super feat of programming development. Far from it, actually. As with any good developer, and the first thing you do is let's find some code out there that works. And essentially, all it was doing was checking a feed, doing a checksum, saying, "Oh, there's a new episode. Download this," and then with the Apple script command, load onto my iPod, if it broke, boy, it would break, and then there was all kinds of the things we learned in the very early days, and that's why I called the show the Daily Source Code, was I wanted to appeal to software developers who could make the receiving side. So the transmission side of the equation is very simple. You create something and you load it into, certainly with the days of low bandwidth, into an RSS feed with enclosures so it could download. The idea has always been, at night when you don't know about it, what you don't know doesn't hurt you as long as it notifies you when there's something new and you click it and there's an immediate response. But in order to motivate software developers, you need to have something new every single day they're working against to be able to test. And they needed programming, and I created that and called it source code because I figured, hey, that'll appeal to some guys who are developing source code. But we discovered things. For instance, if you the first I remember very well, if you subscribe to in even an iPod or X or iPod or Lemon in the beginning a new feed, the first thing we'd do is download all the episodes. And in those days, that was like, whoa, the whole
we're talking
family's
DSL
freaking
is
out.
the fastest you had back then, right?
Well, exactly. It's everyone, you crunch the bandwidth, you crunch the server too.
Yeah.
I was storing my. I found out later I was storing my my on. What was the pre to the .Mac? It was the iDisk, I think, is what it was.
Oh, right. Yeah, iDisk.
And it was getting hammered with requests and bandwidth, but all the guys at Apple who were watching this happen, they kept basically the Gestapo at bay and said, no, let Curry do this. This is fun to watch, and they kept adding on resource. I never knew this until much later.
No kidding.
They really were facilitating this to work because that really was not the intent of iDisk at the time, obviously.
Yeah, and so many stories like that involve the other operation cracking down and saying, no, we didn't expect you to use it this way, and we're going to stop it. So it's kind of cool that they just let you get away with it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then when I think it was 2005 or so, and Steve Jobs asked to meet me at All Things D, and I sat with him for an hour, and he literally said, "Hey, man, is it okay if I put podcasting into iTunes?" Like, well, it's not really like a thing that He said, "No, but I want you to take a look at it and see if it's working right." I said, "Okay." And to me that was really what really started podcasting. He brought in a whole bunch of other issues and problems because typical Apple, they brought in all their own tags and they enhanced things, which made it somewhat. They kind of cornered the market in a way. In a not very open fashion, although they did it openly, but they really pulled it towards iTunes. And subsequently, the biggest problem that has always existed with any type of publish-subscribe system, they had the button. Yeah. So they had the button that you click on, and then every computer in the universe, Windows, Mac, whatever, would say, "Oh, I know what to do with this information. I will open up iTunes and I will subscribe you to this podcast." And to this day, really, there is no open subscribe mechanism like that for RSS or anything, which I think is one of the main reasons why Twitter, with the following, and of course Facebook with friending, that's your one-click publish subscribe mechanism. But of course, it always requires some kind of lock-in. And we need an ombudsman for that too, really. If we could have some kind of service in the middle that everyone trusted for publish subscribe.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's come up with their own ways around it, but Apple putting podcasts in iTunes was a sword that had two edges, right? It boosted podcasts immeasurably. I remember when we were doing Buzz Out Loud at the time, when iTunes came out, our numbers went way up because people discovered podcasting, which was great.
And then they put NPR everywhere on the homepage, and then
exactly.
we got
but then
down into Never
the
Neverland.
only way to succeed for a long time was to get ranked and listed in iTunes, and it's still very much of an effect.
What has prevailed. If you look, you'll see the comedy guys are in the top 10. Carolla and Mark Maron, and there's Kevin. All these guys are
Chris Hardwick.
They're very popular, and I think it showed that there is definitely there is without a doubt an audience, and I think it's surpassed a lot of what the NPR, BBC, the so-called quality programming that Apple. From their standpoint, understandably started to push, but it's really such a level playing field as far as I'm concerned now. Although I get disappointed when I see the emails come in from Stitcher, who continuously only promote public radio programming, and whether from here or from the UK, and I'm always puzzled as to is their audience really only interested in that? Apparently, they know what they're doing, I guess.
Although the Stitcher brings up an interesting fact. 10 years later, so I had iPodder, and I was putting podcasts onto my Creative Nomad back in the time.
Right
And of
on.
course, iTunes came along, and that was the way to do it for the longest time. But it seems like podcasting has moved into the app land, right? People listen to podcasts on their apps. I was kind of stunned by this when Molly and I launched It's a Thing, and so many people said, I can't get your podcast. It's not in fill in app name here. And I'm like, what are you talking about? We got an RSS feed right here. You just add it in, but people don't do it that way anymore.
And that is changing for a number of reasons. And by the way, I always feel that articles, although I think the Ars article is pretty good, you miss Andrew Grummett, you miss Ray from iPodder X. There's a lot of guys who did a lot of work, particularly the iPodder Lemon team. There's a lot of people involved in that. And as usual, the guys who actually built a lot of code under the hood don't get any props for that. I'm seeing a very interesting development, and I think that this, in general, we're going to see a lot more applications built in a non-monetizable way on the internet through distributed hash tables. And this is what I feel Bitcoin really gave to us, is the proof of what DHT can do. And we've been experimenting with BitTorrent Sync for quite a while now. And it really is, it has elements of the same magic of the old iPodder days and the early iTunes days, where it just kind of shows up in this folder and on your phone, wherever you designated it to be, and people are using this now as a universal podcatcher. And it's very exciting to see that, because it is also a publish-subscribe mechanism with the long hash string that you use to subscribe to something. And I don't know, yes, apps, standalone apps, I think I've never believed that has a long future. That, I still think that iTunes Radio or TuneIn Radio, whatever it is, I think these are the apps that do it well. They market radio. They enable you to find things easily, browse. I think I don't know what their business model is. I have no idea how they're making money. But people, people are not stupid. When they want something, they'll get it. And now that they've been exposed to it, particularly the kids, man, we used to steal Tom Merritt. We wanted that 45 David Bowie Sound and Vision coming out in 1976. I'm going to steal money from my mama to get that. We would do anything to get what we wanted. And I think that still holds true.
Yeah, the internet always routes around whatever roadblock you put in.
It sees it as a bug. Any kind of firewall or paywall or walled garden, it's a bug.
Well, thank you for doing the daily source code and all of that stuff, because I'm glad that helped push podcasting into the stratosphere that it's in now, because I really enjoyed doing this.
Well, thank you. And obviously I get a lot of credit for it, but a lot of people, as the article said, a lot of people were involved. And if you believe the paperwork and the patents, I really had very little.
Right, none of us had anything to do with it.
Invented in 1996 on cassettes, and some other guys did it. I don't know. It's fine. I wish they were around with all their money and their patents when Dave and I were working to evangelize it.
Quite helpful, wouldn't it?
Never saw them show up then.
Yeah, that was odd.
But and congratulations to you, Tom, because you've really done something that I think John Dvorak and I are very proud of. Is we have built our own show now in its 7th year, the No Agenda Show. We've built that purely with support from the listeners. And we've kind of loosely coined this the value for value model. Really, it came out of the audience calling it that, because we would say, hey, did you go to the movies? What did it cost you for 2 tickets, popcorn, a drink, and $40, $50? Okay, we just entertained you for 2.5 hours. Was it worth anything to you? If not, don't say anything. If you like it, do. And you've really taken that, and I think you also proved that it can be done. And you saw your way away from, I think, the network model, and the shows you've been doing have been outstanding. Also, the stuff Brushwood does. I mean, I'm really proud of a whole bunch of people who are doing these things and proving that it can be done with the people who care about what we're doing, the audience.
Yeah, no, I thank you. I appreciate that, and I definitely took inspiration from No Agenda Show in that manner, that value for value manner, as I said over and over on the show, and I'm happy it's worked out.
Oh, come here, give me a kiss, Tom.
Aw. Hey, something else that happened on this day, just a few years before Daily Source Code in 1912, the U.S. Department of Commerce issued its
Dvorak
first...
was around then, by the way.
I think he may have been working at the Department of Commerce, issued its first experimental radio license in compliance with the International Radio Convention Act of 1912. The International Radio Convention and Radio Act, to the Department of Redundancy and Redundancy said. St. Joseph's College received the license with serial number 1 to operate 2 kilowatt station 3XJ. That was in 1912.
I don't know if you could. I don't know if I can actually show you. I have to move the machine, but I have my ham radio set up. It's all over there. I'm KF5 SLN, and still using some of the same technologies that were around then. You'd be surprised to find out how many people, including me, still communicate with Morse code, CW.
Keeping it going.
And how effective it really is still.
102 years later.
Yeah.
Our pick of the day comes from Satechi, or actually comes from Artem Rusakovsky. It's the Satechi Universal Smartphone slot. I was saying that I probably need to get one of those docks because I do use my phone for navigation in the car.
Maps.
And
I'm back to maps, Tom.
You're just using paper maps, really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's not entirely truthful. I have one in the car, but I look at the route and I say, okay, this is the route I'm going to take. I might print something out.
It's like that's like a brain training game.
You see things you never saw before.
Yeah, because you're looking.
Wow, I didn't know. Has that water tower been there all this time? You'd be surprised. And I'm just being, I'll be 50 September 3rd, so I figured, what do I have to lose to try and wean myself off a little bit of the technology. I'm not a Luddite or anything at all, but I really I do enjoy not having the connectivity around all the time because I'm like everybody else. I'll be completely hooked. I got my face down, not talking to my wife. She's not talking to me. Did you send me a text? Yes, I did. Oh, it's pathetic. And things like print out a map, drive around, try and follow it. You'd be surprised what you see.
You might even be able to put your map in this thing. It's a CD slot mounter.
Perfect.
And he says nobody uses CDs anymore, so why not put the CD slot to good use? It's located in a much more convenient place. The mount is made by Satechi, a company with a great history and track record, just like it already did for many people. It will change your life. I don't know about that, Artem. I don't know if this is going to change my life. Maybe it will. I don't know.
That is true about CDs. We just moved, and this was the time to purge. And I like books a lot, and so I gave away half of the books. But we together, my wife and I, have a huge collection of CDs, and I couldn't part with it, But then I wanted to find a simple solution where I can just play a CD and have it play throughout the whole house. And it doesn't really exist, the Sonos stuff. Yeah, you can hook stuff up. There's really no beautiful all-in-one solution that includes a CD player anymore.
No, yeah, you have to hack it. You have to get one of those 300
and it's not hard
CD
to
changers.
do.
Yeah,
and of course then
or digitize all the CDs. And
yeah, but that you're missing the beauty of putting the disc in. And
you sound like a vinyl fan, but about CDs.
Yeah, no, I have.
I'm a big vinyl.
I have 18 vinyl that I carry around because I can't get rid of them. And Michael Jackson's Thriller. I have Prince, 4 Prince vinyls. I have a Jane Fonda workout record. Did you have that Jane Fonda workout record?
My mom had that Jane Fonda workout. Yeah. She was a Jackie Sorensen fan, though.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. Well, there has other team, obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, and I schlepped some vinyl around. I have one of those USB record players.
Anyway, the Satechi is big enough to fit a phablet, so it might fit your Thomas Guide too. We'll have a link to the show notes, and you can send your picks to feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. You can find my picks at dailytechnewsshow.com/picks. Got time for a quick phone call and an email before we get out of here, unless you need to go.
No,
okay, you're good. All right.
I took the whole day off just
Excellent.
to make my microphone work.
You shouldn't have. This call comes from Bradley. We were joking around about record all of your service calls, and Bradley had this advice.
Hey Tom, this is Brad from the city of First in Kokomo, Indiana. I'm calling about super secretly recording Comcast customer support calls. 12 states are currently two-party or all-party consent states, which require that both the calling party and the receiving party consent before recording a call. This means that if either the Comcast rep or the customer reside in one of these states, both parties must be notified before the recording starts, otherwise it could be considered illegal. Just wanted to keep everyone on the up and up. Thanks for doing the show.
Now, that's good advice. The question I have, though, is they always say this call may be recorded. A, does that cover them if you didn't actually consent? And B, if it does that mean I can record them in return?
Well, the thing that I always do, which has nothing to do with the recording, but we have found works, if you are calling into an automated system, you just want to swear and go, fuck, shit, fuck, and then usually you'll get, hold on, we're connecting you to an operator. Try it.
Does that really work?
If you're really angry and outraged, the systems usually just pull you right into the front.
They have voice recognition for that?
Not hard to recognize what I just did.
Yeah, well, I guess so. Finally, Rich from lovely Cleveland, and longtime listeners of the show for the past 8 months, recognize Rich from lovely Cleveland. He has sent us some great emails, and he is posting his first podcast for the Novelization Realization Project, set to debut today, Wednesday, and he wanted us to plug it on the show. He's got a link to the Tumblr blog, and he has it listed on iTunes as well. He's working on Stitcher and SEO crap, as he says. I already have the first episode ready to go on SoundCloud. I think it sounds decent, but I'm hardly an impartial audience, so he'd like to know what you think. Look for the Novelization Realization Project, and we'll have that link to Tumblr in the show notes. But thanks, Rich.
Can I just give one little thing, Tom, before we go?
Yeah, sure, man.
News item about the FCC. People asking to have the comment roundtables outside of D.C.
Oh yeah, the senator. Which senator was it that said you should do it outside of Washington?
Maybe
yeah,
Grassley. Maybe it was Grassley. Because it's very hard to get this through on bigger tech shows, and that's why I want to completely abuse you for a moment. The net neutrality debate is a very dangerous one. People are not seeing what is actually happening here, and regardless of whatever boo-hoo packet inequality we're all crying about, read the legislation, people. Every single paragraph talks about lawful content, lawful network traffic. And nowhere does it say who's going to determine what that is or what it is in general. And if you want stuff shut down, you want you want to give up control of the internet and of great programming like this, because who says, Curry said a bad word, that's not lawful content, take that off of the network. It's no longer, that can't be a part of the net neutrality. Please be very careful with what everyone thinks is the right thing to do. I believe you're being snookered into regulation of speech and other forms of free expression, and that's really what the internet to me is about. The packets have never been equal. Ask any network engineer, but don't be suckered into letting any government tell you what is lawful or not lawful when it comes to speech and expression.
It's a trapdoor that I think the most realistic risk is that the music and television industry uses to crack down on piracy. Comcast was doing it for them, and they got caught and stopped. But that's the kind of wording that they could rely on in the future to say, yeah, we can inspect your packets.
You see, it's already happening, and of course, you don't want child pornography being emailed, and so everyone thinks it's great when Google sniffs out this imagery, but what's next? This is what we have to be very, very wary of. And the real problem is your municipalities, the people at the town hall who are taking kickbacks and bribes for keeping competition out of cities and towns. That's where the real problem is and what needs to be addressed.
Yeah, we had a really insightful chat with John Milburn about how the internet actually works. If you want to brush up on some of these issues, check it out, youtube.com/dailytechnewsshow.
Oh, good. I'll post a link to that as well.
That's
good.
Thank you. That'd be great. Adam Curry, an honor and a pleasure. Thank you for spending time hanging out with me and chatting about all this stuff. This was really great.
Oh, and you know what? This is the only tech show I get invited on, so I'm very, very happy to be a part of this. I've been
well. We'll have you back anytime you want.
I am unlawful content on other on other shows, but again, congratulations on what you're doing. It's really great. I'm just a big fan of what guys like you are doing. And yeah, are you still doing the cord cutters with brushwood?
Yeah, cord killers.
Cord killers.
It's a little more violent. But we're not even that dogmatic about cutting the cord. We're more about watching what you want, when you want, where you want.
Right.
And yeah, that show's going well.
Good, good. Well, I like all of that stuff, and I think
Well,
it's
thank you.
good, and it needs to be supported. And people support your local programming. Look at look at the value you just received by watching this program. That certainly worth something.
Twitter.com/Adam Curry to follow Adam, and noagendashow.com if you want a different type of quality program. Go check it out. Those guys are fun to listen to. It's John Dvorak and Adam Curry, the inspiration for my explanation of what we do here. When Adam says, did you get some value out of this past 30 minutes or so? It's that value for value model he was talking about earlier. And we have lots of ways to support the show. We use Patreon, patreon.com/acedetect. We have a PayPal donation button on. We have a Bitcoin donation. We even still have a Dogecoin donation. I don't know
You
if
take
anybody
checks? Can people send checks? Do you have a PO box?
I don't like doing that yet.
Really?
Well, yeah, maybe someday.
Yeah.
You've got it down to a science, man. Like I got to get into the
I've gotta
knighthoods and the producers and stuff. You're
Well,
killing
I
it.
give Dvorak a lot of props for that, but the checks thing, he really figured that out, and you can have your bank send checks at no cost. They'll mail it, the check goes out, they pay for everything, and
It makes me nervous for some reason. I don't know why.
Oh well, gold doubloons.
DailyTechNewsShow.com/donate if you want to find out more about that. Don't forget you can have a voice in what stories we cover at our subreddit, dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. You can email us feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We even have a Google Voice number, 512-59-DAILY. That's 512-593-2459. And listen to the show live, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 Pacific at mobile.alphageekradio.com. Our website is dailytechnewsshow.com. We'll be back tomorrow with Breckie Thomason from Sweden and the Psycon Network. See you then.
This podcast is part of the Frog Pants Studios Network. For more information about this and other shows, visit frogpants.com. Audio program so good, it's like you're there.
Zargi wants me to ask you what you think of Dogecoin. Is that a trap?
We feel that Bitcoin certainly, but all of this is the Beanie Babies of the internet.
Dogecoin
of the
is.
financial system, really.
Yeah. Dogecoin certainly is. I mean, Bitcoin has got, and Dogecoin's just using Bitcoin's tech. Bitcoin has a really interesting tech behind it. But you're talking about the actual financial side of it.
I have Bitcoin that I got very early on, and I did an experiment, and I bought some illegal drugs on what was that site called again?
Silk Road?
Silk Road, yeah. We tried that out, and that worked great. I was blown away. Drugs showed up in an envelope at my house. Wow, this is pretty cool. And of course that went away, and I've just, I think it's on a computer. I had probably to start it up, and it'll probably take 4 days to sync the entire blockchain. It's not money. It's interesting, no doubt about it, but I think you're paying both ways. Someone's paying to convert their dollars or euros into Bitcoin, and then you have a transfer fee in most cases. It's very small, but it's there. And then you have you're changing it back from when you want to pay your rent from Bitcoin into dollars, and so you're losing twice as much money, really. I mean, it
only gets interesting if everyone starts using it, right? Like if you have to convert into it. I see what you're saying.
Well,
and I don't know if it ever gets circulated enough where you're just like getting paid in Bitcoin.
Well, that's the problem, and the volatility of it. If I could buy my beef jerky, or if I could pay my rent with Bitcoin, it would be very different for me. Okay, yeah, send me some Bitcoin, and I can go ahead and pay my my landlord, but not if it fluctuates by 20% every day. That's a problem.
Yeah.
So it's,
although that could go away, don't you think?
No, I think Bitcoin is. Are we still streaming?
What's that? Yeah, we're still live on both video and audio.
Extra content.
Yeah, I just leave it going while I edit usually.
Right.
Which is what I'm doing right now.
So
the
distributed hash table that really was proven and built by Bitcoin is phenomenal. I mean, that's just a beautiful example of what can be done. I think what's more interesting is what is really being generated. What are these questions really? And I've posited that this looks a lot more like someone building a rainbow table than it does anything else.
Oh, really?
You got a huge rainbow table that can be used
Uh-huh.
to track anything you want, and everyone participated in it. And they could be pretty far with that when you think about it.
That's intriguing. Yeah.
You know?
So I've got some title ideas at showbot.replex.org. Really, Seb Guns, Curry in a hurry.
What?
We let people submit their title ideas
Sure.
in the chat room, and one of them is Curry in a hurry. Must have been listening to the pre-show. Bark to tweet. Siri shot first.
What?
That's kind of my favorite. I got to.
Is that about the
say.
Viv?
First?
Oh, about the murder accusation.
Yeah. I mean, it's not
the.
the primary story, but I mean, if you can't have a Greedo reference every 6 months, you're not really.
Snowden is the new Kleenex. Ah, clever. Nose support amiss, NSA.
We got nosepad gate.
Uh,
How weird is that, though?
well, you know what? I noticed the picture because I was trying to figure out if these are the same glasses,
Right.
so I can have my Snowden cosplay put together.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it is explainable that the guy probably doesn't have a lot of money, but you would think that's not an expensive thing to fix.
No, and he's out all the time in Moscow without glasses on. This is his brand. This is
Well,
his thing.
yeah.
So
Wants to
that's
look
okay, but
intelligent.
let's not pussyfoot around it. Okay, this guy is building a brand, and I know the only other person I should have mentioned on the show. You're old enough to remember who was the other person who radical guy in American history who posed with the flag. I think he had a jacket made out of the flag or something. Maybe you're too young. Abby Hoffman.
Oh,
Oh,
Abby
of
Hoffman.
course.
Yeah, of course. Steal this book.
Yep. And Abby Hoffman, very reminiscent of that whole vibe with the flag, and and Hoffman, of course, had the big crazy kind of hairdo and everything of the day. So no one ever comes up with anything original. It's all the same.
They're all tropes. The whole thing.
Yeah.
What should we call the show, Jenny?
Oh gosh, I was looking for something really iconic, but I don't see one just yet. Although I
Here,
think.
Tom. Remember this?
Oh yeah, the Internet Yellow Pages. Man, I sold
Oh,
so many
man.
copies of that at Half Price Books on Guadalupe Street.
Yeah. Are you from Austin?
I lived there in the '90s for 6 years. Yeah.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I went to UT for grad school, and I worked at Half Price Books the whole time.
How about
Oh,
unlawful?
okay.
How about unlawful content?
It's kind of elegant. It applies to
kinda-
multiple stories.
It applies to multiple stories. It's it has a net neutrality nod.
Yeah,
It certainly was.
and the independent content thing.
Yeah. To me,
All right.
that's the most elegant one on the books there.
It's either that or BGP Uber alles.
I'm very tempted now to make it BGP Uber alles.
There will be some people who will like you for that. I had a lot of fun. This was a fun show.
Oh, thanks,
to do.
man. I'm glad.
And do you have a guest on every time?
Yeah.
No. You do every show?
Yep.
Mhm.
It's the way I do it.
Well, your presence is much bigger than you realize. Some of your guests, then I don't remember.
You've listened and thought it was just me because maybe their level was too low.
Your show, I like watching your show. I'm not, and I don't really have a commute or anything, so I like to have it on, and but I also didn't know you streamed live. That was not clear to me, so I downloaded on my.
I really try to focus on the audio, and so I don't make a big deal out of the video streaming. But I guess I should make a bigger deal out of the audio streaming in that case.
Well, no, I don't know. I mean, that's the only one. I mean, everything else I listen to, but I have the Nexus 7 tablet, and so that actually kind of works pretty well for video. So I think I've used Dog Catcher or something that works quite well.
Gotcha.
But anytime, I'd be happy to come on for anything. I have a lot to say, and I have an opinion.
Yeah,
We'll hold you to
you
it.
do have opinions.
I try. Well, I you got to entertain one way or the other. It doesn't matter if people like me or not.
It's actually Brian Cooley was the first one who it like hammered into my brain, like you have to take a position.
Yeah.
You know, or it's not interesting to people.
Exactly. And quite, you know, usually if you take a position that is contrary to what most people think, you know, people will pay attention. Now, not if you just do it to do it, that's not going to work.
Right. Fox has made a brilliant industry of just doing it to do it, I think.
Yeah. Well,
and MSNBC has followed them. So.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I would say that works on all sides
of that
equation for sure. But now that's just gotten so predictable that it's not even funny anymore. Whereas like the net neutrality, but even the podcast patent, I'm totally not on board with what the consensus is. I don't think Adam Carolla. I think he's misappropriating funds. I mean, this is ridiculous.
Oh, you're following that. Well, that's what the patent holders are saying.
Well, no, but I've been saying this for a long time. I've been saying, I don't know what you're doing here or why you're raising money, because A, they have a patent, and if you want to invalidate that patent, then you don't do it by saying I'm going to countersue you, which he really isn't. He has a counterclaim in the suit. Mm-hmm. You have to follow the path of the EFF, and it's a $35,000 starter fee just to have to revisit the patent. And they raised that money, and I contributed financially. I will not work with them because I really dislike them calling people patent trolls. I mean, that's also, these guys are not patent trolls. The original patent holder is in this suit, and so no one bought it from him. And what is it, like? Is he an actual beast, ugly man under a bridge? No,
I if he lives under a bridge, although I haven't verified that. Yeah.
But it's just not the definition in my mind of a patent troll. It's someone who.
Well, I don't like the patent troll name anyway, just because it's become meaningless. People just throw it around as an insult rather than this is somebody this is a non-practicing entity, is what patent troll should mean. And non-practicing entity is not very catchy. I get that.
But that's also not true, because they license their technology, the playlist technology.
I'm not saying that they were necessarily a non-practicing entity, but if you want to use the term, that's the term you should use. And if they're a practicing entity, then you don't use that term.
Agreed.
And there are, Ayaz Akhtar is the guy who made the compelling argument to me. He's like, there's a need for non-practicing entities. Like they provide a valuable clearinghouse service in the marketplace for patents. He's like, unless you don't believe patents should exist at all, then you need non-practicing entities. It's all a matter of what are they allowed to do and which patents are actually approved.
Right. So I just take exception to someone raising money saying, I'm saving all podcasts. No, you're fucking not saving all podcasts. That's just not true. That's not true. You're not saving the Tom Merritt Daily Tech News Today show. You're not saving No Agenda. That's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit.
If anybody, him or not, defeated this company in court, wouldn't that give us some shield, though?
Well, no. First of all, it has no. If you look at what patents are being discussed, it has nothing to do with you creating a show, with me creating a show.
It's the distribution method.
It is a technical distribution method, but it's not an RSS feed. It is, I believe, and Apple has bought into this, and they are not really our friend in this case, because they paid for the playlist patent, and as a part of their settlement, they said, okay, any other follow-on patents, we're done. We don't have to pay for that. So the publish-subscribe mechanism of a player, like the iPod, using all of these different systems, or if you have I guess you could say if you had a flash player that could save some state on an individual browser, there's patent concerns in there. It's totally ridiculous, but okay, then you have to go after the patent. But just these guys saw that there's no violation. I see no violation done by Carolla's network. I see no violation done by the Twit network, none whatsoever. They're seeing that, and they want to back off, and now it's they were wrong. They should pay Carolla his costs. I think that I wish that the system worked like that. I feel that would be fair, because they brought a lot of hassle onto somebody. But the counterclaim is judge, please invalidate this patent. That's not the process. The process for invalidating a patent is what EFF is doing, and at very best, any money raised should go to the EFF, who are on this very long, very particular journey, which the judge has already said very favorably, looks like you guys might have a case. And that will certainly overturn the patent for the player with a publish subscribe mechanism in it, which it's just like I hate to say it, but these patents exist and people pay for it. You can't put an MP3 player out there without paying an MP3 license fee. People don't realize that, but it's not an open source free thing. You're paying the
Yeah, that's why Audacity doesn't come with the encoder included.
Exactly. That's why you have the lame encoder or whatever. So all of that stuff is because of those patents. But also, you're using one click on Amazon. That's patented. You can't just put that anywhere. That's where it went wrong, as far as I'm concerned. This is crazy. We're patenting processes of buttons. I'm against the whole system, or most of it. I think copyright is much more applicable, certainly to software.
The biggest problem to me is that no one talks about what the purpose of any of this stuff is. The purpose of patent is different depending on who you ask. So we need to start with, why do we have copyright law? Why do we have patent law? And are we achieving that end by having it?
Right.
And if we aren't, then we need to either adjust it or get rid of it.
Well, I think we are in some regards. I'll take medicine. I think let's say that pharmaceutical company creates something that costs billions of dollars in research to make. They need to be able to make that money back. Unfortunately, a lot of what they create is bogus crap, and it's just going to kill you probably. And once it goes out of patent expires and people can make generics, this was very good and very advantageous for the sick person, the consumer, were it not that all of the pharmaceuticals have purchased the generic companies, so they own it either way. And there's problems with it, but the initial idea, of course, was to have a working invention and be protected for a set amount of time, which has only been extended through legislation of interested parties. Sonny Bono being the rest in peace, but being one of the largest offenders of the extension of copyright. It's sad. That was never the intent.
Yeah.
But all our politicians are lawyers, man. It's like everyone's a lawyer.
Yeah. With almost zero exception.
Yeah.
All right, I'm out of the post, Jenny.
All right.
So we're going to stop streaming. Thank you again, Adam. This is really fun.
Tom, thank you very much. Jenny, thank you. I appreciate you guys thinking of me. Very few do.
Well, we'll call again. Believe me.
All right, we'll talk to you.
Well,